Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content from across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with KC, founder of the African publisher NIBCARD Games, as well as ABCon, or the African Board Game Convention, which is raising funds right now on Kickstarter. KC, welcome to the binge. How you doing, sir?
Thank you so much, James. And thank you for inviting me on your podcast. It's actually an honor, it's a privilege. And I'm super happy to be here and talk about the work we've been doing in Nigeria.
Oh,
Thank
it
you.
is awesome having you on the podcast. I reached out to you. I saw your Kickstarter campaign for ABCon, or the African Board Game Convention, and it just hit me. Like I had to back it, so I backed it right away, as you know. Also sent it out to my followers to say, hey guys, check this out. For me, there's so much love in this industry, and there are so many friendships that are formed in and around board games, and so many relationships, and really it's a safe space for a lot of people. And anywhere we can spread that love around the world and help it grow, especially in underdeveloped markets like Africa, I am all over that. And it was a real privilege when you responded back and said you'd come on the podcast. I was so excited to hear that. And thank you so much for agreeing to come on. So we're going to talk about it. So first of all, how did you get into board games? Like, is this been something that's been part of your life, like your whole life, or is this something rather new, or how did this come about?
To be honest, I've gotten this question so many times, and it's actually when I say the what it is, people kind of like it's a lie. But the truth is that what got me into the tabletop game industry was boredom.
Boredom.
Was boredom. And at the time, I didn't even know that it existed. I didn't know that there was, this whole new world about modern games. It was just boredom, and that was in 2013. I was still a student on campus in the university, and then there was this teachers lecturers strike about salary increments with the government, and so there was this strike, and at the time we didn't know how long the strike would hold on. Actually, it went on to stay about 6 months. But at the time, we didn't know, okay, you guys should go home for 6 months. So we kept hearing that there's been a meeting and there's a new development and school will resume next week. And next week became 6 months, right? So at the time, we were trying out stuff because we couldn't go home. And I had this friend, and he was a medical student then. He's a medical doctor right now, and I wanted to engage him in other extracurricular activities I used to do in school, like we were a lot of stuff I used to engage myself in social activities, and he didn't like any of those. I now jokingly told him that, you know what, since you're so bored, I'm going to create you a boring game. And that was but over the years, I found out that the game wasn't even boring. One, it wasn't long, but the intent I had then was to design because he was medical students tends to read a lot and stay indoors a lot. So that was the intent. So it was out of boredom that I designed my first game. But in 2015 was when I had this revelation of the industry. So between 2013 and 2015, I started volunteering a lot. I volunteered with American Corner. It's this relationship between America and Nigeria where young
Mm-hmm.
people could learn the cultures and all of this. So I also volunteered with VSO. It's British funded. It's funded by the British Council. So one of the volunteering opportunities took me to Lagos. So Lagos is probably the biggest city in Africa. And I had to volunteer for 6 months. And our work was to help increase learning objectives for children who are in school,
Yeah.
very poor, or out of school. And part of that team were young people from UK and young people from Kenya. So it was also a sort of cross-cultural team where these people from different backgrounds. So when they came, coincidentally, I've always carried that boring game from 2013 around wherever I go to. And wherever I bring them out, people don't know what it is. People do not value it. People didn't care about it. But in that team, because the young people from UK brought some games, card games and some board games. And none of us had ever seen those games because what we know about are the old classics, like, the Ludo, Mancala, Monopoly,
Mm-hmm.
Scrabble, chess. Those are the ones we know about. But they brought games that we didn't know about. So I was like, whoa, guys, I have this game I always carry around. I don't know whether. And they were so shocked and amazed at the same time. Like, for someone to design a game, there are these whole processes that have to go into it. And when they played it, they said, okay, can you design another one? And in 3 months that we stayed together, I designed 2 games. I mean, prototypes anyway.
Yeah.
And those games that I could relate with, games from stories, folklores I've heard about. And they were so amazed. And that was when I started seeing my work in their from their perspective, from their eyes, and no longer from my own eyes. And my friends who were like, oh, what is this? And at that point, I started making intentional research about the games. Oh my, I saw how big the industry was, right? I
Huge.
saw that
Yeah.
it was huge and it was beautiful and it was crazy. First on Facebook. So I typed board game. Once I type board game, any group I would join just to see, just to learn. And just like you said, the industry is welcoming and like it's encouraging, it's inspiring. And I started sending friend requests to strangers just because they are in the same group. And then I started posting pictures of my own prototype because I saw that they posted pictures of their games and prototypes on their timeline. So I started doing the same. And from there, I started seeing encouragement. Wow, you designed this. And at the time, we had never opened and we'd never started NIBCARD at the time. It was just me posting, oh, I will play these games. And so I started going to YouTube, watching a lot of videos, and wow. So that was how the whole thing started. So NIBCARD is a whole different stories of me trying to solve my own problem. So when it became a thing for me, I started saying, okay, I have this game now. I want a place where I could design it. And I walked around, I talked to people, and I couldn't find anybody that understood what I was talking about. So I learned how to design Coral Draw for myself and started designing for myself. Then when I wanted to now make the games I had designed, I couldn't find any other place. And I went to YouTube and started learning how to fold, how to make quad boards, all of those. Yes, different tokens. And I started making them for myself.
Yeah.
And right now, we now make it for other people. But when NIBCARD started, it was just to make my own games, right? And then that was how. Same with the cafe we run, same with AppCon. All of this was just first to promote my own games, and then it now turned out that, wow, there are other people that have the same problem and also looking for the same solution, and then we turned it into a company. So that's the story of how I came into the whole industry. I know it's long, and I'm
No, it's
sorry
good. Yeah, I can relate because, and I think this is a story for a lot of people in this industry who are publishers, right? Or game designers, where they start off with creating, a following for their own games, but then it turns into something else, right? And I can relate to that. Like if I think about, the Board Game Binge podcast, originally this was created because I was trying to learn from other people and I was recording it, right? So I talked to a publisher and I'd say, hey, I just need 30 minutes of your time. I'm going to pick your brain about questions on the industry so I can learn. And I'm going to record it, so I have it to reflect back on. But I think there's other people that might want to hear this. And then it turned into something much different and much bigger, which is more just about the industry, right? And me learning as much as I can about the industry and meeting as many people in the industry as I can, because I've formed a lot of friendships. And that's what I so love about this industry is that, I'll be at a convention, I'll run into someone that I've only known virtually, and then finally you see them face to face, give each other a big hug and say, wow, finally we get to see each other in person. It is an incredible feeling. So with NIBCARD, as you're publishing, so that was to kind of package it or put a company around your own designs. Have you taken it to the next level? Have you looked to start making those games for other people or to start selling copies of your games in the local markets?
Okay, yes. Actually, we do sell our games in the local market and it sells fast. So we are a very small publishing company. So we make a handful of games. And because we have this, sometimes it's an advantage and sometimes it's a disadvantage. So because we also manufacture our own games, right? So we make a handful, and so sometimes we are out of stock for our games, right? So if we had to make our games from another place, we might want to make bigger quantity that could last for a long time, right? But we haven't grown that company at the time, right now, right? And because we also have a lot of games that we've designed, because one of the mantra I started on was that I want to show people this industry. I want to show people that a lot of games. And when I started, right now we have a cafe that I just showed you, and people have donated games from around the world, right? But when I started, I didn't know that people would donate games. So, and I know I could never afford to buy these games. Even if I could not afford to buy this game, which I can't, the shipping is more expensive than the game itself, right?
Yeah.
So I don't narrowed my mind from that. So it was more of I need to show people that there is so much. And the old classic we had came with stereotypes. So you had to be brilliant to be able to play chess, or you have to know words to play Scrabble, or you have to like money to play Monopoly, or you have to be. So there are stereotypes. You have to be idle to play draft, or that's checkers. Or so there were so many stereotypes I wanted to show. So because of that mantra, I started designing so many type of games that I can design. Right, I will just once it comes, boom. Even if I only have 5 copies of those games sold, I will move on to the next project. So that's how it is. Now, right now, it has become it's a strength and also some sort of weakness. Right now, I don't know which one to put money and mass produce because I want people to so that if you don't like this game, you would like this one, right? So if you don't like this fast game, you might like this chilled game, or you might like this strategy game or a simple game. So once I have this idea, I just bring them out immediately. So because of that, it's sort of where we now want to go into. And to answer your question in detail, our next level is more of we are currently in the local market, right? But it's more of expansion. You know, when if we're talking about because sometimes people reach out, oh, do you have this game? I say, oh, we don't have this game at the time. So it's more of when we are promoting these games, people can readily access it at their neighborhood and have to come to NIBCARD, which is only one venue in one state in Nigeria, and there are 36 different states, right? There are even states I've never been to in my life. So, but we want our games to be there. So I think that's the level we are pushing towards to where we would become a bit more structured and focus on certain games, our priorities, and then putting our strength and our resources on those games and being. But right now, I think it's a conscious thing I'm working on, but my passion is still a bit higher than my business sense.
Yeah.
So I need to make it equal and balanced. So that's the next level that we are working on as a company.
There's a lot of people in the same boat. I would say is that, and I let me just back up. I think a lot of people who are passionate about creating board games don't realize that the deeper you get into this industry, it's really about business, right? And there's a designing side, but if you want to go beyond just being a designer, if you actually want to publish your own game, if you want to be able to sell your own game, now you're getting into business, right? And there's a learning curve there. The good news is there's resources all around, and there are more people than you can count that are willing to help, right? And help kind of pay it forward and help others kind of learn some of these things if you're willing to learn. Some people don't want to learn the business aspect of it. They're happy just to be game designers and that's it. And that's fine. But if you do want to go the publishing route, you gotta be willing to take the next step and be willing to learn those things. So it's great to hear that you have the visibility of kind of what you need to do for the next step to get there. How big is the industry in your area in Nigeria? Is there board game cafes more than just the one you operate? Are there others? Is there board game stores? How is the industry, how big is it right now?
So I think this is the same in most markets, but there are two markets when you talk about tabletop games in Nigeria, right? There is the mass market, and oh boy, that market is huge. I say it's huge because I've never seen an advert about an old classic games,
Yeah.
not one in life. but they sell because you see them in every bookstore. I mean, every bookstore, you see them in every supermarket. We do not know who put them there, right?
Are you talking about the classics like the Monopolies and things like that? Yeah.
For Monopoly, there's a partnership of Hasbro and a company in Nigeria, Best Man Games, right?
Hmm.
But for Scrabble, for checkers, for Ludo, for what, for Jenga, we do not know the for Mancala, we do not know. But this game have existed since I knew how to spell my name, right?
Yeah.
So they sell, and
Yeah.
they don't do adverts. There's no adverts. They don't sponsor anything, no brand, right? So there's that market. And then in 2015, a Nigerian won the World Scrabble competition. You can check it online. It's everywhere, right?
Hmm.
Right. A Nigerian won that, and it's rare to walk into a Nigerian street. And I'm saying this with authority, right? It's rare to walk into a Nigerian street without seeing people playing one of the old classic on the street, outdoor. So people play game. It's established. Nigerians
Yeah.
love to play, and that market is existing. But how do you penetrate that sort of market? I do not know. Right. One time I spoke to a distributor of those games, and what he said was just too much for me to even begin to grasp, right? So there's a cabal in one city that you have to meet, and then they have to take you to another before you can become a distributor. Not even before they distribute your own game. So I say no. Now there is the modern tabletop games, and that is where we come in and where we put in all of our energy in, where we are telling people that there is so much more games
Hmm.
and and so much more opportunities, both for designers and for players themselves, right? So in that space, it's pretty much we are pretty much at the infancy level,
Yeah.
right? It's not. There was a time I was proud to say we are the only cafe, but I'm not. It's not something I'm proud of saying anymore. I rather say we are the first cafe. I have friends. I have friends that have started, putting games in the cafes, right? But it's not originally a tabletop games cafe. So it's already a cafe, but now they've seen sense, and instead of putting books, they're now putting tabletop games, board games in their cafes. I have a friend that built a cafe from the scratch, from the foundational level, but also included outdoor games because that is, when you're running a business, you tilt towards the market,
Yeah.
right? So exactly. So we have cafes now that are including games, and for us, we consider it a win. But if you're talking about a primarily tabletop games cafe, we just have ours, and we hope that this changes. But for this to change, we have to we have to work to the business side of it, right?
Hmm.
So people need to know, okay, if I have this, I would be able to make money. For me, like I said, my passion is still much more ahead of the business side. So if we're talking about modern tabletop games, we are still at the infancy level. But it's picking up compared to when we started in 2015 to now. It's so like in 2017, I couldn't even be doing this video with you with people in the cafe. But now I have game masters that have their own day job, their own life, but they can still come in to run games, and it's beautiful.
How do you find getting like new people coming into your cafe? Do you find that are they coming mainly for like like something new to do socially? Or are they coming because they've heard about board games and so they want to they're kind of curious? Or is it more along the lines of maybe they know somebody already playing board games that's bringing their friends? Like, how is the clientele kind of growing and morphing for you?
It works. It works always. All the three you've mentioned all works.
Hmm.
Uh, Most times we prefer to grow organically, so we spend so little on marketing or adverts.
Hmm.
In fact, we don't have for the cafe, we don't have a signpost, and we've been running for this is the sixth year.
Wow.
The last yes, the last two birthdays were celebrated by the communities. So they did the cake, they did the chops and everything. So we prefer that. So it's more on recommendation. Oh, I've been to NIBCARD Games. Oh, I'm celebrating my birthday at NIBCARD Games. Oh, let's come. And then some of those individuals go back to their offices and say, oh, there's their games. It's a new thing. And then they are now calling us to come do team building activity for them with tabletop games, right? So it's a mixture of everything. And then there are people who maybe schooled in Europe or North America or in Asia. So and they've seen glimpse of games in pubs or in cafes, and they come back to Nigeria and they just mistakenly search board games. And because we're in Abuja, and also because we're in Abuja, it's easier. They see games, they're so happy. Sometimes I see messages, it's a lie. I can't believe you guys exist. Do you have Dungeons and Dragons? I say, "Ooh. Do you have Wingspan? Or they just mention games. Do you have Catan? I'm like, just come to the cafe, and they are so excited. And then sometimes we also have expatriates because we're in the capital city,
Yeah.
and they so picture of everything. Sometimes it's more like I'm bored and I'm searching games places. And when they search for games, they actually are searching for electronic games. But because this one is closer to them and they come in, they see something and they are always amazed. So it's a mixture of both social gathering and intentional searching on the internet, or someone just saw an advert of games night. So we advertise our games night, and but most newcomers for games night have this perception of drinking games
Yeah.
and stuff. And when they come in, they see a different type of games night where we do not do drink, we never do drinking games in NIBCARD. And to be honest, it's more of the legal responsibility. I don't want someone to say I came to NIBCARD games to play a game and they gave me alcohol and then I do stupid things outside. So we conscious no no drinking games. If you want to drink, you can drink, but it's not because of a game. So they come in for game nights and it's something different, and they still have so much fun.
Yeah.
And they doing truth and dare. And then we also have AppCon. So people see adverts of AppCon and they walk in, they see something they've never seen before. So it's a mix of so much, and it's beautiful.
That's awesome. So with the African Board Game Convention, this started in 2016, I believe, is the first one.
Yes, please. 2016.
And then was again, well, this is an idea to start kind of promoting your own games, but it's obviously grown into something much bigger. How has that evolved, and how have you kind of expanded that from year to year?
To be honest, I sit down and I just think, and it amazes me, and this is because of the industry and the support, because when I started, I didn't expect it. There's something like, okay, you will expect help and then you get it and you're super grateful, but I didn't expect it, and I'm getting so much help, and I'm seeing it materialize, right? Just like you said, yes, I started with my own games, and not just my games. I used to carry a wooden box that I built,
Yeah.
a wooden about 2 feet by 1.5 feet, and that is where I put in all my games because they were not in boxes; they were just boards that I've cut. I've never box. I didn't do pod fold at the time; it was just board, and I just pack all the cards so there are compartments in the boxes, and we used to carry them to lounges wherever we see an open space where people are having a good time. We and sometimes it's intruding to like coming to a group that are having a quiet time to teach them games. But when we thought about AppCon and the cafe, we were like, okay, something that will bring people consciously to come and play games. And it was just to play my own games. But when people started donating games and our first Kickstarter, our first campaign was on Indiegogo,
Okay.
2007. But that was 2017. So after 2016, and I posted pictures. Remember, I've started making friends on Facebook, and they said, why didn't you tell us we would support? And so 2017, someone on Facebook told me about Indiegogo, and I put in and I got out $3,000 to do the next one. I'm like, whoa, I'm going to do something beautiful. And it has grown. It has grown because there are people who have been to AppCon for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
And one of the, I hope I'm I don't want them to listen to this, but we want to celebrate those people this year. So people that have been to AppCon for 5 years, we have people who have volunteered for AppCon for 5 years, right? And so much has changed, and they keep growing with us. We have people that like they've been to AppCon for like 3 years, but not consecutively. and they are seeing consistent, they're seeing new games, they're seeing new method, and we're going, there more people are coming in. We've seen people that have come from different countries, we've seen people that have come from different parts of Nigeria, and this is a huge deal, right? Last year, for the first time, we did 2 years in our history, and people love this so much because they, after we did if we do one day, they don't want it to end. So last year we said, let's try these 2 days and see how it goes. And it worked. It worked. People came on Saturday and came back on Sunday and brought in more people for the Sunday because the experience on Saturday was beautiful. So we are seeing all of this, explode in our eyes. We are seeing support. We are seeing the impact. So we are seeing situations. So we are seeing situations where now, for instance, there's a convention that is officially opening in southeastern part of Nigeria in December. Yes. Yeah, I don't want to announce it. They wanted to announce it, but we had an in-house conversation. Say it's better to announce it after the campaign because he is also part of the campaign. So we didn't want the attention to be divided. So I will leave it for them to announce, but definitely you will see it on my timeline as well, right? And he has been volunteering for AppCon for 5 years. And now he's taking that convention to a city that is 6 hours away drive from where AppCon is happening, right? So this is, and it's organic. I didn't influence it. It's their own thing. And before they're even starting this convention, they've been running games night for the past 2 years. So they've built their own community.
Yeah.
Independent. So I'm seeing that there's also, it's not a convention, but it's been a yearly gaming event that's been happening about 1 hour away from Abuja. They don't want to call it a convention, but it's been a gaming event. But this one that's been announced, I want to say the name, but
yeah.
okay.
Well, for AbbCon, what I would say is that, I mean, you've raised, I'm going to put this in Canadian dollars because it's the only way I can see it. You're almost at $21,000 on this campaign so far. You've got 213 backers. Still 48 hours to go. I personally backed this campaign. And what I would encourage anybody that's either listening on the podcast or watching on the replay, it's worth checking out. Everything helps. Even $1 helps. So go to Kickstarter, type in AB, so AB Con. It'll bring you to the African Board Game Convention website. There you can pledge literally anything you want to pledge, and all this helps spread the board gaming, right? This whole hobby in Nigeria, and I think that this is an awesome cause to be part of, and yourself, Casey, the fact that you've taken this on and grown it to what it's gotten to so far. And I mean, it's big, but it's going to get even bigger every year. I think it's quite commendable. What is your plan from here? So what's the next step? So you've got your publishing company, NIBCARD Games. You have ABCon. Is there like another layer that's coming next? Like what's next for you beyond this?
What we are looking at right now, just like I told you, is our building more business structures and also looking for a global partnership. So majorly for my games, I'm looking at a situation where people outside Nigeria will also get to play my game. So partnership with any publisher that is interested in looking at my games. I could pitch those games because ultimately I want people to experience our own Nigerian culture in my games, on their gaming table, in their family, in their workspace, in conventions. So that's the plan I'm looking at so far now.
Oh, that's cool. And how have you been pitching to different publishers? Have you tried to at least virtually be part of some of these pitch events and things?
I actually did my first pitch ever this year. So, like it's something I became conscious about this year. So I've done my first. I don't know if I can mention a brand. Is that fine? So,
sure.
Ravensburg.
Yep, Ravensburger.
Yes. So that's. I had a meeting with an amazing person. We thought about 2 of my games. There is potential in one, so I'm finger crossed. But I'm open to pitch all of the games I have now to as many publishers as possible.
Yeah, it's a numbers game, right? So for people out there who are designing games, it is easy to get, I guess, dissuaded, right? Where you pitch your game and maybe there's rejection, and the problem is there's only so many games that can be published by each publisher each year, and each publisher is trying to find not only that diamond in the rough, right? That next big hit. But at the same time, it's got to fit their brand, right? And like, for instance, myself, I've had, tons of people, pitch games to me. And, I look at the pitch sheet and it's, I don't know if they didn't look at the company first, but it's clear that it's not even a fit with our corporate brand, right? So that first and foremost is you got to kind of pair up your game with the kind of games that publisher actually publishes. And then it's just, again, setting as many as you can. And hopefully based on numbers, one will be the one that gets chosen as the right fit. It's a challenge, but, I think it's awesome. It's an awesome process to go through.
Not backing down. I will keep pitching and I'll keep pitching. I just wanted to do this campaign, but hopefully by the end of this year, I should pitch to at least 2 more publishers. I will just keep pitching to anybody that wants to hear.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, KC, I want to wish you all the best on this campaign. I'm putting a link in the show notes for people that want to go to the campaign page. If they don't want to type in ABCon on Kickstarter, click the link in the show notes. You'll find it quickly there. Again, I am cheering for you guys. I want to see this get as big as possible, and I'll be looking for the campaign again next year when you're ready to do the following year. And I want to wish you all the best, my friend.
Thank you so much. Thank you, James, for inviting me. I'm super, super proud to be here and to talk about this thing that excites me so much. Thank you so much.
Sounds good, buddy. Keep in touch. Cheers. This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.